Hello and welcome back to another Momentum Ministry Partners podcast. My name is Eric and I'll be the host for today's conversation. And as always, we're so glad that you joined us. This is a bonus episode as we're celebrating Thanksgiving. And I couldn't think of anybody more perfect to join me in this episode than the one and only Timothy Lansing. Tim,
Man,
welcome.
That's a good welcome. I like that.
Well, when you think of people you're thankful for, you're at the top of the list.
Man. Top 3, top 5?
Jesus, my wife, my kids. Yeah, for
Okay,
sure.
maybe
You're-
top 10.
You're up
10.
there. You're up there. But honestly, Tim, like usually for our bonus episodes, we do like a Thanksgiving holiday episode. And it's kind of me doing a devotional and, it can serve a purpose at times. But for this episode this year, I thought, let's do something a little different. Let's have Tim on. And we've been a part of Momentum Ministry Partners for a long time, before it was even called Momentum.
Right.
So I thought, let's share from our perspective just a little glimpse of what we want to continue the trend of doing and see happen. And so bottom line is we are beyond grateful for you, for you listening, to our donors, to our church partners. We can't even begin to express our gratitude for so many churches and so many people who've made this possible. And so if you and I made a list of like the people, I mean, we'd probably both start with Ed Lewis and you work your way down, where the people who have invested in our lives, I think it's safe to say we're in ministry and serving on staff with Momentum because of the generations of people who have come before us and made this all possible. So, Tim, share with us just a little bit like your story and how you grew up kind of in Momentum Ministry Partners, or CE National back then. Well, it's okay to just say that. That's what the name was. Yeah, we switched it. And then how did you get plugged in and connected with Momentum now?
Yeah. I mean, it's been a huge part of my life. Like I'm trying to think of time without momentum in my life. But really, I think for me, I came to know the Lord when I was 6 years old in first grade and gave my life to the Lord. And at that point, I knew I needed to make a decision for Jesus. My parents, my grandparents, I had people at my church that were interacting with me in the gospel. And so made a decision. And then for me, I just kept, as an elementary age kid, just kept living my life, doing my thing. And I remember coming to a time in my life between like middle school, high school. And, people are speaking into my life. I was kind of a shy kid. I wasn't really one to like be in front of people and just be the person in front of everybody and doing stuff. I wasn't the jokester. I was just kind of that shy kid. And I remember a guy from my church that said, "Hey, you should consider going on this thing called Operation Barnabas." I don't know if I can say that, but it's Momentum had this program. It was called Travel Teams, Operation Barnabas. But anyways, went on this trip, or he encouraged me, "You should do this."
Yeah.
And I was like, "I don't know. That's really not," like, I said, "Tell me a little bit more about it." You told me about it. I was like, "I don't know. That seems like a lot of upfront kind of making new friends and having to talk about the gospel and just, a lot of different components I wasn't used to." They did puppets and clowns and all sorts of stuff back then. But I remember kind of being tugged upon my heart as a follower of Jesus. I'm like, I think there's something more that I need to do than just make a decision. Like my life action needs to follow that. And so I remember wrestling a little bit with God of like, "God, I don't know that I want to do this." I didn't know a whole lot about Momentum at that time. Well, that year, our church decided to go to Momentum Youth Conference. I think they had done that in the past, kind of took a break and then started back again. And so the summer, my freshman year, I decided to go to youth conference. And that was my first real interaction with Momentum. And I had never experienced anything like that before in my life. And I was like, it just was like over the top, a little probably overstimulating for me. But I loved it. And I connected with God, kind of the heartbeat of what God, I think, was trying to tug on me with, like, connected. And so youth conference was my first kind of interaction with Momentum. After that summer, and this guy from my church is kind of talking to me a little bit about it. I'm like, "Okay, Lord, like, I think there's a whole lot more out there that you want me to be a part of." And so from youth conference and that next year, I decided, okay, I'm going to apply. And I was young. Now, on a momentum travel team, they often didn't take you unless you were like a junior and a senior back in those times. This
Yeah.
was back in the 90s. And so I remember thinking, okay, I kind of made a deal with God. I'm like, I'm going to apply because I know that's what you want me to do, but I don't think I'm going to get on the team. I'm young. I was like still a freshman going in the 10th grade. And but God had other plans, and so I got accepted onto that team with Momentum, and spent the next 6 weeks of my summer, 7 weeks of my summer, it's how long it was back then, uh, talking about my
Hmm.
God story, talking about what God had done in my life, doing fun things with other students my age, talking, doing skits and dramas and clowns back then, all sorts of stuff. And so I just remember the very first time on that trip, I actually got to share my faith with a young kid, 10-year-old,
Hmm.
and it just rocked my world. I was like, God, this is incredible. And so what momentum did for me back then is it gave me those push opportunities that I desperately needed. I didn't know I needed them, but God did. And so I just remember momentum providing those experiences, providing those opportunities to really, I think for me, seeing God in a different way.
Hmm.
And knowing that it's more than just that one-time decision, but God wants to use me as a vessel of His. Um, and so kind of fast forward, I continued going to youth conference every summer. And then I remember getting into, and God did incredible things through high school and used kind of the foundation of what momentum taught me, both on that trip as well as at youth conference throughout high school. And then I got asked in college, kind of last minute by TK, to come and be a leader on that same travel team for that coming summer. And this was like a month before it started. He lost a leader, needed another leader. And still at that point in my life, I was like, okay, this is still like another big moment. Do I want to lead? I've never led anything big like this before. And so wrestled with God a little bit, prayed through that, and then decided to jump into that opportunity. And so I led a travel team with Momentum that summer. And then after that, I got married, and me and my wife, we were serving kind of part-time in our church. And anyways, jumped into then a part-time role working with students at my church here in California. And then again, continued bringing now our youth every summer to youth conference. And so in that process, even as I'm getting to know Ed Lewis and TK and some of those guys that kind of been around for a while with Momentum, Ed came to me one day and say, hey, you ever thought about being on the Momentum board? And I was like, no, I've never been on a board. Don't know what that's like. And so I'm like 30 years old, and I'm, still kind of young. I'm still kind of inexperienced in a lot of ways. But Ed Lewis saw something in me and really gave me a chance to jump into another connection with Momentum. So I got to be a board member for Momentum for 8 years. And now fast forward today, I'm on staff with Momentum. I get to be the director of the Urban Center here in Los Angeles. And so it's just been a wild ride. Like God has literally woven Momentum in two different ways, right? Kind of a pun there, but like Momentum, the organization, and just the momentum of God, what God wanted to do in my life in so many different ways. So it's been, pretty, when I look back and I'm just, again, talking about Thanksgiving, being grateful, I'm super grateful that God pushed me and that he used an organization like Momentum to come alongside me as a shy young kid and give me opportunities that maybe I wouldn't have gotten anywhere else. So
It's fun, Tim, listening to your story because I'm sitting here going, yes, ditto, me too. Yes.
somewhat similar.
Literally, growing up, going to Momentum Youth Conference as a student, became a youth pastor, took students. There's even a couple years, if I'm honest, where I was like, we're going to do something different. And I tried to look and find something else. And Momentum literally was just the best thing.
Yeah.
And so we came back. We didn't actually leave, but I looked.
Right. Yep.
And so I remember being in high school and going to one of the very first summer opportunities at the Urban Center in Philadelphia. And it was this brand new thing. It had just opened, and I got to go, and I experienced the getting out of my comfort zone as a kid growing up in Winona Lake, Indiana, to go to Philadelphia,
Right.
a big city, and be way out of my comfort zone, and then given tools to learn how to pray with people and how to step out and be bold and ask for questions, to engage in conversations. And Ed Lewis and Timothy Kurtanik and the TKs, these guys were like spiritual fathers to so many people.
Right.
And so that's probably the biggest thing that I think I'm thankful for where Momentum is today, is these amazing men and women who have invested in this organization, the donors, the people that are partnering with us, the churches who have been faithful through the years. And even Tim, those people like the guy in your church, you didn't name him, you
Right.
probably know his name,
Yep.
but like I want to see thousands of those men and women in churches that look at the young people and go, I see something in you.
Yeah.
I see potential. I want to encourage you. I want you to pray with me about this. I think you should go to an urban center trip. I think you should go to youth conference. I think you should take a step of faith and pray about going into ministry. Right. It's those kinds of conversations that when you're obedient and kind of step into it and you speak truth and life into people, look what God does with it.
Right.
And we have so many friends, so many pastors at churches. I mean, we could list hundreds of people that we know that their story is the same. And their impact and their journey, that those mile markers are the same. Right. And the fingerprints of the Lord and how he's used Momentum Ministry Partners is all over the place. And so I know we love our jobs. We love getting to be a part of this organization because of that very thing we get to see. We get a front row seat to watching God raise up a next generation of ministry leaders, of mighty warriors for his kingdom. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, when you see it play out in your own life and then get to watch others and you're like, what lays down the road for them, right? It's like super exciting to like know like, hey, I was in that spot. I was in that place. People poured into me. I mean, I remember my first time going to an urban center was when we were on a Momentum travel team, went to the Philadelphia Urban Center there. And like, again, like God just reminded me of the importance of sharing my God story, the people that are broken. And so just the people that financed that, the people that prayed over me as a young kid, like all of that, right? And then to see other people get to jump into that. Yeah. It's exciting.
It's fun for us now in the roles that we're in. So Tim's the LA Urban Center director and kind of wears a lot of hats with Momentum in the off season right. when you're not running teams all summer long and we're, filling your whole calendar with teams in the summer. So book now if you want to go to the Urban Center. But the thing that is so fun, like even just recently, we were both making phone calls to people who have been faithful donors through the years. And not given like hundreds of thousands of dollars or anything, but people who just are faithful. And we're like, we just want to say thank you. Right. And we love that. We love the heartbeat behind that because it's literally because of people who have given to Momentum of their time, their treasures, their resources, even speaking truth into, breathing life into you. It's because of those people that we're here. Right. And that we get to see this. I mean, we had sold out youth conference the last couple of years. Yep. And we're like, I know we would love to see more of that happen. We would love to see our urban centers be booked year round because we're helping, what God's doing is we're helping literally those students understand the calling that God has on their life, whether to go into full-time ministry professionalism or to be a missional marketplace leader. Right. And so we get to see this front row seat of what God's doing. And it's so fun, Tim, for us to get to work alongside local churches and see those light bulbs come on and to see the students go, I think God actually has gifted me, or I think God's calling me to this, or look at the step of faith that I took. Mm-hmm. And now I'm starting a Bible study in my school, or I'm memorizing scripture for the first time, or I'm praying for my 3 and I'm excited to share the gospel with them. And we're like, yes, right. You can do it. And I'm like, we see a little Tim and a little Eric in each of them. And we're like, this is amazing. Like, it's a fun ride. Yep. It's a fun ride. So Tim, share maybe just from your perspective, you do a lot, obviously, with the Urban Center here in LA. Mm-hmm. When churches go back home and they take that excitement and it made sense. The principles that they learned out here in California, they're going home and they're implementing in their local church and they're excited, they're passionate about it. What's some of the things from your seat that you get to see that maybe our audience wouldn't always get to hear?
Yeah, man, I mean, one story really comes to mind as you talk about that. I was just thinking through like being thankful for the role that I'm in with the urban center where God's placed me, but I get to watch other students kind of catch that vision that I caught as a young kid. And so I'll never forget, we had one group that had just left, like a couple hours ago, had left the urban center, and I get a call from one of the students, and I'm on speakerphone with a couple of them, and they're in the van, they're on their way home, and they're like, "Tim, you'll never believe what just happened." I was like, "Are you guys okay?" They're like, "No, we're fine." And they said, you challenged us with, care, share, challenge, trying to share your God story, inviting people that we already have relationship when we know back home, like into the gospel. And so I challenged them. I said, "Hey, I would encourage you to try to reach out to, if there's someone that came to mind that God brought to mind that you want to share the gospel with." I said, reach out to them before you get home. So a couple of these students took me up on my word, and they called one of their friends, and they just said, it wasn't like going through the whole gospel. They just basically said like, "Hey, we just went on this trip, incredible trip. We'd love to share more about it, but we want you to come and experience from our team firsthand and come to church on Sunday and hear what our team got to experience." And that was their kind of initial point to get them, connected at church. And the friend said yes. And they were just ecstatic to call me. And because for them, that was a bold step for them to like bring up faith, to invite their friend to church. And so I just think about moments like that we don't always get to hear all those stories. But I love when those stories kind of come back our way. I get to hear some of them, and even when they call and those type of things. So
I love it.
It just makes my heart like, beat a little bit faster for the gospel because students are catching it.
Yeah.
So
I think for me, the most fun thing about working for Momentum is seeing the churches and the students and even the pastors realize the impact that they're getting to have with their local community, with their church and their youth group, and like watching that light bulb kind of click on for them, and then seeing them step into that new obedience or whatever the gifting that God has given to them and calling them to do. And so we want to point that out at Momentum Ministry Partners. We want to make a big stinking deal about that. And so we give out church awards at the end of every year. And I love getting to see, just pastors that feel like, man, ministry's hard. We've been working our butts off trying to do the best we can with what we have. And for us to just say, like, we see you. Well, we should give out so many more awards because there are so many churches, but just to give out a few and recognize some churches where God's doing amazing things and people have been faithful with what they've been given. But this past year at Momentum Youth Conference, we introduced a new idea where we gave out student awards, and it was so fun. The like creative award, the Go and Tell award, a Catalyst award, where we're just asking the youth pastors like, hey, nominate a student that you see who's going above and beyond in your student ministry. They're understanding the gifts that God's given to them and the calling that he's given to them. And so who are some of those students? And we had a bunch of nominations. You and I kind of, and another team, we get to read some of those and we get to enjoy like just delighting in the nominations of all these students they're really living their faith out for the Lord.
Well, and to see students like that, right? That like, I know sometimes we get stuck in our context or our local church, but to like see the greater church and what students at a young age are being able to accomplish nowadays with technology and just their experience with Momentum and all those things is just, it's incredible. Yeah.
Well, then it's fun because at youth conference this year, we celebrated those. We made a big deal. We tried to surprise the students. I think we got most of them. We invited them onto a podcast episode. If you haven't listened to that one, go check that one out. It's so good because we gave them each time to kind of tell their story and what they're doing. And literally, Tim, the rest of the week, I was having students come up to me and they're like, we're gonna start a podcast. We're gonna do a Bible study. I want to be like that student. And they're like naming them. They're like, they know them. They're like, these are our people and they get it. And I'm like, yes. Yeah. And like I say all the time, the same Holy Spirit that lives inside of these students lives inside of the parents and the pastors. And I'm like, God wants to use you. And I'm just delighted. I'm so grateful that we're a part of an organization that sees that encourages that, and that wants to see that continue.
Well, and not even having to wait till you become a college student or later in life, but like
Now.
Momentum gives opportunities now for young students, middle school, high
Yes.
school, right? So that's exciting, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we just are tickled. Honestly, it's amazing to think of the impact that we get to have together with partnership with local churches. It's why when we changed from CE National to become Momentum Ministry Partners, the leadership team, we felt very strongly like, no, the word partners needs to be in there because we really want to partner with you and your local church. And so whether you're a pastor, whether you're a missional marketplace leader, whether you're a parent or a volunteer in your church or a student, whether you're a donor, we're incredibly grateful for you. And we just are blessed. We're so blessed by you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add?
I mean, just want to echo that, the Bible says to give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God. And so I just think about the many people who are so faithful in praying. We just finished a 40 days of prayer as a staff today.
Yeah.
And so prayer is so important. So those that have been praying for years and decades for the ministry of Momentum, I just want to say thanks for those folks that are doing that. And again, we've seen so many people faithfully giving of not only their money, which is important, but also their resources, their time, coming to youth conference, helping out, volunteering, and so many people that have just been involved so that people like you and I can experience God in just an incredible way.
Yeah. It's hard sometimes to explain to a donor or to people who are considering giving to Momentum Ministry Partners what we do. And there's not always the tangible thing that we could point at and look at of like, hey, we built this building or we donated this meal. And yet really what we're doing is establishing healthy church partnerships so that the churches can do that. And so that we can have the next generation of leaders be raised up and be a part of building God's kingdom. And so it's hard to put into words sometimes, but we really are grateful. And so if you have never given to Momentum Ministry Partners, we would welcome that. We would ask that you prayerfully consider putting Momentum on your giving report and being a part of financial contributions to Momentum. And so you can do that through our website, buildmomentum.org. You can do that in a lot of different ways, and we've tried to make it as easy as possible there. But we really would just be delighted to partner with you and your local church and help serve you in any way that we can and come alongside of you. And I would say we want to put wind in your sail. We want to encourage you in the same way that God has done for us. Right. I think that's biblical in 2 Corinthians chapter 1. So it's amazing and it's powerful that we get to be a part of this. So on behalf of Tim and I and all of the Momentum staff, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Thanks for listening to the Momentum Ministry Partners Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, would you subscribe, rate, and leave us a review? That helps more people discover this podcast. We'd also love for you to share this episode with someone in your network who could benefit from the conversation. Because we want to be your go-to and most trusted resource, we'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a topic you'd like us to cover in a future episode, send us an email to info@buildmomentum.org. Or you can send us a DM on any of our social media platforms. And if you want to learn more about Momentum Youth Conference, Urban Centers, Grace College Akron, Momentum Marketplace, or Momentum Pro, head over to buildmomentum.org. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.